June 6, 1942, Stuttgart, Germany. Inside Porsche's experimental workshop, engineers roll a strange, boat-shaped car onto a quiet lake. Generals, SS officers, and Dr. Ferdinand Porsche himself watch as the small machine suddenly splashes forward. With a quick lever pull, a hidden propeller drops into the water. The car surges across the lake, steering with its front wheels like a ship's rudder. It climbs the far bank without pause, water cascading off its steel skin. This was the birth of the Type 166 Schwimmwagen, the world's most produced amphibious car and one of Hitler's most unusual weapons. Conceived when Nazi Germany demanded a vehicle that could go anywhere, roads, mud, rivers, it combined the toughness of the VW Kübelwagen with the agility of a boat. Over 14,000 were built, carrying soldiers and machine guns across the frozen rivers of Russia, the marshes of Holland, and the beaches of Normandy. What began as a bold engineering experiment would become a symbol of Porsche's ingenuity and a curious chapter in the story of World War II. The idea for an all-terrain vehicle that could glide across water started long before that dramatic Stuttgart test. In spring 1940, as German forces swept across Western Europe, Adolf Hitler's high command foresaw an even tougher challenge ahead: a massive invasion of the Soviet Union. Vast rivers, swamps, and snowbound terrain demanded something far more versatile than any car or motorcycle of the time. They turned to Dr. Ferdinand Porsche, already celebrated for designing the Volkswagen People's Car. Porsche and his son, Dr. Ferry Porsche, were asked to create a vehicle that could replace horse cavalry and motorcycle scouts. The first response was the Kübelwagen, a light military car that proved its worth in early campaigns. But for Russia's endless rivers and muddy plains, the army wanted something even bolder, a car that could swim. By late 1940, Porsche's team drafted the first amphibious design. On September 21, 1940, the prototype known as Type 128 appeared. It looked box-like and rugged, with its doors welded shut for watertight integrity. Over the next year, 150 test vehicles rolled out for punishing field trials, from Autobahn runs to alpine climbs and river crossings. The Wehrmacht's reports were glowing. The Schwimmer, as soldiers soon called it, could go where no other machine had been. Yet Porsche's engineers knew this was only a beginning. The Type 128 was heavy and wide, good in the water but less agile on rough terrain. The challenge was set: build a lighter, stronger, and more maneuverable amphibious car that could meet the demands of a brutal Eastern Front. Out of that challenge would come the improved Type 166, the definitive Schwimmwagen that would earn a place in military history. The first Schwimmwagen, the Type 128, was impressive but not perfect. It shared the Volkswagen flat-four rear engine with the Kübelwagen, but its long wheelbase and wide body made it heavy and awkward off-road. Porsche's engineers went back to the drawing board. Their goal: create a machine that was smaller, lighter, and stronger without losing its ability to float and maneuver like a boat. Through late 1941 and early 1942, test teams pushed the Type 128 to the limit. In alpine trials near Kitzbühler Horn, 3 prototypes climbed muddy, rock-strewn mountain paths where no motor vehicle had gone before. They crossed rivers at higher speeds than rival designs and proved that an amphibious car could handle the brutal Eastern Front. Still, the Army Weapons Office wanted more agility and easier maintenance. The answer was the Type 166. Its wheelbase was shortened by 40 centimeters and its width reduced by 10 centimeters, trimming precious weight while improving balance. The propeller mechanism was simplified: a hinged, triple-bladed propeller folded neatly against the hull until water entry, when a single lever lowered it and engaged the drive shaft. Front wheels acted as rudders, making the car steer like a small boat. Production of the refined Type 166 began in June 1942 after successful tests on Stuttgart's Max Eith Reservoir and snow runs on Grossglockner Mountain. The new model featured a single-welded pressed steel monocoque hull, part car body, part boat, so watertight that soldiers simply climbed over the sides instead of opening doors. It was a masterpiece of practical engineering, A 5-speed gearbox, 2 self-locking differentials, independent torsion bar suspension, and a compact 1,131cc engine delivering 24 to 25 horsepower. By late 1942, the Schwimmwagen Type 166 was ready for mass deployment. It wasn't just an upgrade, it was a purpose-built amphibious scout, capable of charging rivers, surviving mud, and keeping pace with tanks, exactly what the Eastern and Western fronts demanded. Beneath its compact, boat-like shell, the Type 166 Schwimmwagen hid a surprising amount of engineering genius. At its heart lay a rear-mounted, air-cooled, flat 4-cylinder engine, a design borrowed from the Volkswagen Beetle and the Kübelwagen. With a displacement of 1,131cc and 24 to 25 horsepower, it was no race car, but its simplicity and reliability were perfect for harsh frontline conditions. The vehicle's 5-speed gearbox, 4 gears for land plus an extra low gear for water, fed power through 2 self-locking differentials to all 4 wheels. This permanent 4-wheel drive allowed the Schwimmwagen to claw through mud, snow, and steep slopes where motorcycles and trucks often failed. Its independent torsion bar suspension gave every wheel room to move, softening landings after sudden drops into riverbanks or ditches. The real magic happened when the car hit the water. At the pull of a lever, a triple-bladed propeller swung down from the rear and locked to the drive shaft. The front wheels acted as rudders, steering left or right like a small boat's helm. Soldiers could drive straight off a riverbank, float at 6 miles per hour, and climb the opposite shore without leaving their seats. A single-welded steel monocoque hull, reinforced with cross members, kept the cabin watertight and light enough to float even when fully loaded. For protection, the Schwimmwagen could mount an MG-34 machine gun on a swivel with ammunition stored inside the hull for quick access. Measuring 3.8 meters long and 1.48 meters wide, with 265 millimeters of ground clearance, it carried 4 men and supplies while weighing only around 890 kilograms. The high-mounted exhaust and air intake prevented engine flooding, and clever seals protected the brake cables and wheel bearings from water. Every detail, from rubber-encased speedometer cables to grease-packed brake lines, reflected Porsche's obsession with durability. The result was a vehicle equally at home in deep rivers, frozen forests, and dusty European roads, a mechanical hybrid that blurred the line between car and boat. By late 1942, the Schwimmwagen Type 166 was rolling out to frontline units across Europe. Its mission: reconnaissance and rapid movement where rivers, mud, and shattered roads stopped ordinary vehicles. For German forces pushing deep into the Soviet Union, it was a welcome innovation. Vast river networks and endless marshes had turned motorcycles and even light trucks into liabilities. The Schwimmwagen changed that equation overnight. Recon patrols could now drive straight into a river, drop the propeller, and cross without a bridge or ferry. Pioneer combat engineer battalions used it to scout crossings for tanks and infantry. Luftwaffe paratroopers under General Kurt Student relied on it to move men and weapons through flooded terrain. Even Hermann Göring's field divisions employed the amphibious car to maintain supply lines in hard-to-reach outposts. Its performance in the brutal Russian winters surprised many. The air-cooled engine didn't freeze, and the sealed hull kept snow and slush from drowning the mechanics. Schwimmwagens routinely followed tanks across swampy ground, sometimes carrying an MG-34 machine gun for protection. In places where even horses struggled, the little boat on wheels kept moving. On the Western Front, the vehicle proved equally versatile. From the beaches of Normandy to the flooded fields of Holland, it ferried officers, scouts, and engineers through canals and rivers under fire. Reports from German commanders praised its ability to ford rivers at speed, deliver messages across flooded battlefields, and escape sudden ambushes by simply diving into water. Between 1942 and 1944, more than 14,000 Schwimmwagens were built, making it the most produced amphibious car in history. While it couldn't replace tanks or half-tracks, it filled a vital niche as a nimble reconnaissance craft that blurred the line between land and water operations. To Allied soldiers who spotted its small silhouette gliding across rivers, the Schwimmwagen seemed like something out of science fiction, a secret weapon perfectly suited to Germany's vast, shifting battlefronts. While the Schwimmwagen was winning praise at the front, it was also a source of curiosity and even amusement inside Hitler's high command. According to Dr. Ferry Porsche, the Führer himself took a keen personal interest in the project. Ferry recalled in his memoir that as early as August 1941, he was summoned to Hitler's headquarters to show off the prototype. Hitler spent a long time circling the compact machine, peppering the young engineer with detailed questions about engine performance, watertight seals, and even the comfort of the crew. He appeared genuinely fascinated that a vehicle could drive into a river and emerge dry and ready for action. Then came an unexpected moment of dark comedy. Hitler, aware of the mosquito-plagued Russian front, suggested fitting the car with a special mosquito net to shield soldiers during transit. As he spoke, a mosquito landed on a nearby general's cheek. Without warning, Hitler struck, killing the insect and leaving the startled officer with a streak of blood on his face. Laughing, Hitler quipped, "Look, the first German general to shed blood in this war." The design team took the Führer's practical concerns seriously. He wanted lights that would meet international navigation rules, a green light to starboard and a red one to port, so that Schwimmwagons operating on rivers would mimic small boats. Although that idea was ultimately set aside, it showed how seriously the regime viewed this swimming car as part of a modern amphibious force. Through it all, Ferry Porsche remained responsible for every Kübelwagen and Schwimmwagen built between 1939 and the final days of 1945. For the Porsches, the Type 166 became more than an engineering challenge. It was a personal project shaped by direct conversations with Hitler himself, conversations that mixed military ambition, technical fascination, and flashes of unexpected humor. When the Third Reich collapsed in 1945, the Schwimmwagen story didn't simply end on the battlefield. Allied troops who overran the Volkswagen factory at Wolfsburg quickly recognized the little car's unique capabilities. British soldiers, in particular, were fascinated. They famously staged games on Germany's Mittelland Canal, driving Schwimmwagons off wharves at nearly 40 miles per hour, hitting the water with a spectacular splash, and then cruising up and down the canal as if nothing had happened. The French, eager to seize Volkswagen's valuable welding machinery, were treated to an unforgettable demonstration. British officers, perhaps emboldened by a celebratory drink, invited their French guests into Schwimmwagons for a test ride. At full speed, they suddenly veered off the embankment and into the canal, the amphibious cars leaping outward before settling safely in the water. On one infamous outing, a bilge plug accidentally came loose and the vehicle slowly sank, much to the surprise of their French passengers. The message was clear: this factory and its secrets would stay in British hands. Beyond military adventures, the Schwimmwagen found new civilian roles. Surplus vehicles became popular with hunters and fishermen, especially in the wetlands of Europe, where their ability to glide across rivers and marshes made them perfect for duck hunting or swamp travel. In the 1970s, Volkswagen even drew on the design for the quirky VW Thing Type 181, a distant cousin of the wartime amphibious vehicle. Collectors today prize surviving Schwimmwagons as engineering marvels, compact, rugged, and surprisingly seaworthy, even 8 decades later. Many restored examples still drive straight into lakes and back out again, a tribute to Porsche's ingenuity. What began as a desperate wartime experiment became a lasting symbol of mechanical creativity and dual-purpose design, inspiring amphibious vehicles long after the war. The Type 166 Schwimmwagen remains one of the most remarkable engineering feats of the Second World War, a vehicle that blurred the line between land and water, proving that innovation often thrives in the harshest conditions. Born from Germany's urgent need for mobility on the vast Eastern Front, it combined the simplicity of the Volkswagen engine with the daring concept of a true amphibious scout car. Between 1942 and 1944, more than 14,000 units left Porsche's assembly lines, carrying soldiers across icy rivers in Russia, flooded fields in Holland, and contested beaches in France. It replaced motorcycles and horse patrols, ferried officers through mud and snow, and even mounted an MG-34 machine gun when combat demanded. From alpine mountain trials to mosquito-filled forests, The Schwimmwagen earned the trust of the men who depended on it. Yet its story is more than military triumph. Post-war tales of British soldiers joyriding on canals, French officers surprised by accidental sinkings, and hunters quietly gliding through marshes show how this machine outlived the regime that built it. The Schwimmwagen was not simply a Nazi curiosity, it was a proof of concept for amphibious vehicles worldwide, influencing designs for decades. Today, surviving examples restored with care still roll and float as if ready for duty, a living reminder of Porsche's ingenuity and of a time when engineering pushed boundaries under extraordinary pressure. More than just a car that could swim, the Type 166 Schwimmwagen stands as a symbol of human creativity under constraint, a small machine that made a big mark on history.